Thank you very much, Patrick. Your Excellency is the Prime Minister of Netherlands, my dear brother, Prime Minister Ruto, my dear friend, Bill Gates, who does so much for our world, the Right Honourable David Cameron, the former UK Prime Minister, who is now UK's Secretary of State, and you talk about adaptation. When I saw you take the job, I said, this is real adaptation. Give it up to him. It's a good thing. He's committed to that. And I see my friend and the minister from Norway and several other honorable ministers that are here, global leaders, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I wish to thank you for finding time to attend our event today. On September 4th, 2023, Africa and the world gathered in Nairobi, Kenya, for the Africa Climate Summit hosted by President William Ruto and the African Union. It was a landmark event where Africa spoke with one voice, the African voice. That African voice reverberated globally about Africa's challenges and needs on climate change. Africa, which accounts for only 3% of cumulative emissions, suffers disproportionately from its devastating effects. The latest Climate Vulnerability Index shows that 9 out of 10 most vulnerable countries in the world to climate change are in sub-Saharan Africa. Africa is simply choking from climate change. It loses $7 to $15 billion annually due to climate change, and that is projected to rise to $50 billion by 2050. However, Africa receives just 4.5% of the global climate finance. And access to financing for adaptation is even more challenging, with the continent receiving $11 billion for climate adaptation when in fact its needs are 10 times more. The global call for doubling on climate adaptation is absolutely timely. Now we must turn that into action. Africa can no longer wait. The African Development Bank is responding strongly to climate adaptation needs of Africa. We now devote 63% of our total climate finance to adaptation, the highest share among all multilateral development banks globally. The African Development Bank and the Global Center on Adaptation launched the African Adaptation Acceleration Program to mobilize $25 billion for climate adaptation in Africa, the largest climate adaptation program, as you heard for Patrick, in the world. We are doubling down on climate adaptation for least developed countries through the climate action window of the African Development Fund, and many of our funders are here today. The climate action window received $429 million from the government of the United Kingdom. Thank you very much for being here, Secretary of State. Netherlands, Prime Minister, the government of Germany and Switzerland, and several other more will soon be joining us. We plan to mobilize up to $14 billion for climate action window to support climate adaptation for Africa across 37 low-income countries. I am very pleased, therefore, to announce here today that the operationalization of the climate action window starts right here and right now at this COP as we launch the first call for proposals this week. Thank you. And today I request from all donors and foundations to join the climate action window, and I'm particularly delighted that my dear friend Bill Gates is here. And Bill, the window is open, and I'm sure that you're going to come through the door and make sure that it gets well funded. Together, let us deliver climate-resilient agricultural technologies for 20 million farmers, deliver weather insurance for 20 million farmers, rehabilitate 1 million hectares of degraded lands, provide water, sanitation, and health for 18 million people, and renewable energy for close to 10 million people. To deploy climate adaptation resources more effectively, the African Development Bank and the Global Center on Adaptation have supported the development of what we call country adaptation compacts. In 8 countries, Senegal, Republic of Congo, Tanzania, Kenya, Nigeria, Mozambique, Equatorial Guinea, and Algeria, The development of country climate adaptation compacts is ongoing in Liberia, South Africa, Cabo Verde, Morocco, and the Republic of Benin. These country adaptation compacts will allow investors in climate adaptation at country levels to know exactly what they are supporting, the flows of financing, and the deliverables on climate adaptation. I'm therefore delighted that the Excellencies, heads of state and government will be joining us later as we go along to speak about their adaptation compacts here today. Their leadership and advocacy will be critical to drive climate adaptation solutions, accountability, and resource flows for African Adaptation Acceleration Program, which will then support these national climate adaptation compacts. As I close, let me say, as part of our commitment, the African Development Bank will also launch here this week the Africa Climate Risk Insurance for Adaptation, otherwise called ACRIFA, a $1 billion facility that will help to insure countries against extreme weather patterns. Together, let us build buffers for Africa against climate change. Together, let us double down for a climate-resilient Africa. Thank you very much, and thanks for coming.